Today we're going to talk a little bit about why you shouldn't buy a diesel heater, and actually why you should buy a diesel heater. It's a little bit complicated, but we'll go over some of the features and the specs and get started. So we'll start off with this unit here. This is $196 in a 1K to 5K unit. And basically all of these are really just the same. There's only a few differences. They will all come with a remote, and they also have Bluetooth as well. So when looking at this one is taller, it's portable just like this one that is over here. But this one you will have to put some blocks underneath it for when you do have the exhaust pipe come out and the air intake, which I'll show you that in just a little bit. The fuel tank inside here is the same size that this portable one has over here. And this is a 1.3 gallon, which should give us a runtime of about 10 hours on high and about 24 hours on the absolute lowest setting, which is crazy. And the amount of power these take, which we're going to go over that in just a minute or two as well, is absolutely minimum compared to maybe the RV heater that you use inside. As we go into this unit over here, this one runs a little bit more money. This one runs about $212, is the same fuel tank, and is also 2K to 5K. Which this one here is the same, but these are the ones that you would mount inside your RV or inside maybe a shed build or just somewhere that's permanent, versus these are both portable. These portable ones will come with a little display, as you can see here. But the only difference with this one is that this one actually can pop out versus the other one is a solid mount, and you can actually extend this if you wanted to. But for the most part, having this attached to it and just leaving it there and then controlling everything off the app is actually a lot easier than utilizing these. They work, but I find that the app is actually easier. Now this unit here is a type that you would mount inside your RV, and it's exactly the same thing that's inside the portable units that are right here. It's really just the casing that's slightly different. And these come apart, so you can actually service them, and you can swap out the engine if for some reason they happen to fail. But this is a little bit harder of an install if it is going to be on your RV, depending on the type of RV that you might have. Or if you're doing a van build, this is actually a lot easier to install because you're in the beginning process of the van build, versus an RV that's already put together. You have to work around all the wiring and the flooring, which actually can be a real pain sometimes depending on the layout that you might have. Now, if I was to install this inside my RV, I'd have to get on the other side of this wall. As you can see, all the components and stuff that would have to be installed in order for this to work would be very difficult. And there's not a lot of room to work back here due to all the plumbing of your heater, your water lines, and more. So these portable ones end up being a really great option. Now, when buying a portable kit like this, you will get, some basic accessories. You will have your air intake tube. This is going to be the air filter that goes with it. Again, you do have the remote. This will be the muffler that will go onto the exhaust pipe here, and your air intake tube, and a few other mounting accessories as well. Now, when you do get the but when you get the one that you mount permanently inside of your RV, you'll see this will end up coming with a box of basically all the stuff that's needed to mount it inside. You have your wiring harness, you will have fuel line as well. They even give you some gloves, that way, if you want to have something to keep your hands warm. But this is basically all the components you'll need to do the one that's a permanent mount inside of your RV, your van build, or maybe you're doing a shed build. And this is a little bit about what it'll look like. You have your air intake tube here, your muffler, which they do give you your exhaust pipe. This is basically a wrap that you put around your pipe, and then that'll go out the muffler, which that does help quiet it down. And then you have your air intake or your air filter, which this is going to go to your air intake on the bottom of the unit, which I'll show you that here in just a second. Now, when you are installing the air intake and also the exhaust, there's not a lot of room actually under here to be able to get these hose clamps really tight, so just kind of take your time. Or you may even need to use a wrench, which this is basically like a 7mm. It's not very big. Or a flathead screwdriver works pretty good, but you can see it is a little bit kind of snug. Now, when you set these up, this is basically what it'll look like. You'll have your air intake right there, and then you want to have the exhaust kind of running out at least a different direction depending on how you're going to have it with your RV. And so I haven't actually used this one yet, because I've been using this one right here for probably the last couple weeks and just trying to get some estimated run times. And so far I've got about maybe 12 hours on this, and I was running it on high and medium, and I did fill it up a little bit, but I didn't max it up all the way. But I easily could have got probably a good 10 hours, maybe 9 hours on a full run. So I am going to be testing that out to do basically leaving it on high and see how much runtime I can actually get out of it. Now when plugging power in, they do have an optional cord that you can use for like a DC direct plug-in, or they have this attachment right here, which this one here is easy enough to use. And that just clicks into your power, and then the wiring harness, this will go to basically whatever it is you want to use to power up your device. And it will come with an inline fuse. And I ended up cutting off the connectors that it had because it did have a couple ring terminals. So I used this connector here. This way I could actually plug this in to the Delta Pro that I have on board of my RV. And this has the DC port right here on the side. So then I can basically just turn this on and away to go. So we'll turn you on. So what we have to do now is prime it. So we'll add our fuel to it, which you can add either kerosene, diesel, and some people have even mixed basically diesel with some waste oil, and they're getting good results out of that. I haven't done that yet. I've basically just used diesel so far. So, and you can use red, which is obviously a lot cheaper, or kerosene, which is even cheaper there. Now, before you take this on your first trip, I recommend obviously getting it fully set up and then running it for maybe a good hour on high to kind of do a break-in, because you will get a little bit of a smell on these. I noticed, at least on mine, where it did kind of have like maybe a little bit of an exhaust smell. But I'll also go over some circumstances that I found with one of the other units just in a second after we get this fired up. So we go into the settings button. And we're going to press these two arrows. It's going to do the prime. Oh, and this one's actually not even in English. So we'll fix that. And then basically this is going to start priming up here to get all the fuel up to the engine and get all the air out of the line. Now when doing the warm-up process, or basically the priming, sometimes this will take maybe 2 or 3 times where you'll have to turn it on and turn it back off, and then you will see this thing start to smoke like crazy. So I'm on the second time already, and I've actually got to restart it, but I'll show you what this thing looks like because it will blow a lot of smoke. And then after it gets going, I'll kind of show you how I hooked it up to my RV, and then we'll go over a little bit of the pros and cons about basically all of these units, no matter which one you buy, because whether it's Weber or these Max Pitting Rods one, they all pretty much use the same Chinese diesel engine. So unless you get like a Webasto, which is really expensive, I mean, they're basically $1,200, and considering these are all about $200, give or take the deal that you find, it's kind of, you know, not a good reason, or at least not a reason why, you know, it's justifiable to spend that kind of money. So once you see it smoking like this a lot, then you can come back down here, shut off the oil prime, and you can even do that in the app. Sorry if you can't see that. Okay, so now we have the unit on, and it does say 24 Celsius. We're going to turn that up a little bit, basically put it all the way to high, which is going to be 30. But that's about 104 degrees, I believe, at least on the app. Actually, that would be 40 Celsius is what we want for, there we go, 39. Now, upon fire up, this uses about 100 watts, give or take. But once this thing gets running on high, it'll be about 45 watts. I'll show you that in a little bit. And then on low, it goes all the way down to about 10 watts, which your normal heater inside uses a lot, like 250, maybe 300, depending on the size that you might have. And then after this gets going, which this took about 3 times the prime, and now it finally just kind of kicked on. You can hear the pump, you know, constantly ticking away inside. And you can hear the exhaust of this guy starting to kick up, which this will get going pretty good here in a minute or two. Okay, this is running complete full blast now, so you can see on P5, it's been running for about 3 minutes, totally on high. And I'll show you guys what it looks like as far as power consumption on these particular units, because that's one of the reasons they're so popular, is because of how much power they draw. It's absolutely minimal compared to a lot of other heaters out there, and also the fuel consumption is minimal. I mean, these use about 0.5 liters per hour, and that's on high, and then about 0.2, it's actually 0.18, but I figure these are not exactly accurate, so 0.2 is probably on low, and then 0.5 on high. Okay, so now we look at the Delta Pro, and you can see how many watts that we're actually using, and this is on high with the heater going full blast, and it'll be about 45 to 50 watts as it kind of averages out. But if I turn this down, it can go all the way down to about 10 watts running. So I'm going to use the remote real quick, and I'm just going to go to negative, and you'll start to see it drop. So I'm at 5 right now, and it should go all the way down to, oh, I think it's 0.1 or 1K on the unit. So that's one click. Drop it another. There's another one. So we should be on 2 right now, as you can see right there. And we'll take the remote and just go ahead and put it back down to 1. So there's 1. So we'll let this run for about a minute, and then I'll go back and show you the power settings. Okay, so now only after about a minute and it's settled down, look at that, only 6 or 7 watts. That means I can run this thing for 9 days on this battery supply. Plus I do have my other batteries over there. So I mean, as far as kilowatt hours, I have a lot, and I am kind of reconstructing my RV storage right now for a bunch of other stuff I'm going to be doing later. So you guys might want to, you know, stay tuned and check that stuff out. But and I've noticed sometimes when you sit here and watch this, it'll go up and down, and that might be just because of the glow plug kind of coming back up and going back down, as it maybe kind of varies its power draw for this thing. But most of the time what I've seen is about 8 to 10 watts. It'll just kind of hover right around there. And other than that, you can see this is one of the main reasons people like getting diesel heaters, is because of the power draw, and it's minimal. So using your propane heater inside uses a lot more as far as the propane amount that it uses, and also the amount of energy that it uses. So one of the reasons these are so popular, and I'll show you how I have this hooked up to the RV. Now, one of the issues with the diesel heaters is they can overheat if you add too many extension tubes, especially if you use the wrong type. So when you do hook these up, make sure you use the semi-rigid ones that come with it, and you can buy extras of these as well. Now for me, I didn't want to permanently mount one of these inside of my RV. One, because I already know I'm not going to own this RV for more than about 5 years. And 2, I didn't want to put it inside just because these do require some maintenance, which we'll go over that in a minute. But so I just kind of did a quick connect that I have through a through port, and this goes into another through port, which I added to a short tube that runs right here, which then, now this comes out right here at the bottom of my steps, and I have the little kind of, you know, these vents right here, and it basically is blowing air, so the air comes up this way. Now, some people may say you shouldn't block these off because this is where your returns are. Well, if you know anything about RVs, they're poorly sealed. My furnace can easily get air from the air return, which is on the outside, and then not to mention, that's a big hole right there. If you guys have never looked inside there, there's a big hole right here where you can have air return if you want. That leaks cold air as well. So I was getting a lot of cold air that was coming in from here because this goes towards the storage compartment. Not to mention your AC is going to blow all the cold air down in here and force it into your storage compartment, and so your AC is going to run continuously if you don't plug up some of this stuff. So I ended up sealing this whole thing off, and now this heater will basically blow a lot of hot air. Now, as far as, you know, heating up an RV this size, it will do it. It's going to take a long time, but the best way to do it is run your propane heater first, get the unit kind of up to temperature, then the diesel heater will actually maintain the temperature. I've already had it out here a couple times to where once I got the, you know, temperature around the low 60s, it kind of maintained it no problem. And now it's on, well, I'd have to say about a 35-degree day, so it was pretty cold, but it did take a little while to warm it up. But once it was warm, it maintained the heat. Now, as far as that portable unit or this portable unit, I have not decided actually which one I like better. So far, since this is the first time I'm using this unit, I do like this one better because I took this one fully apart and I also took that one fully apart just to look at the construction of it inside. And I actually like this one a little bit better because the build quality it's all metal. There's not really much for plastic in it. It's a little taller and skinnier. I do like that a little bit better. I will add some blocks onto the feet. That way it'll lift it up and I don't have to use basically, you know, the leveler blocks that you would use on your RV. But not that I don't like this one, because this one does have the little foot pegs on it as well. It's a good unit, but they're exactly the same. I mean, for the most part, the fuel tank is the same. But it just has, this is plastic on the outside. It's not bad. It has a metal shell around it, but I think the other one just seems built a little bit better. These go into the plastic here, and a couple of these are already stripped. But the other one, it doesn't have that at all because it's metal on metal. So now, if you're wondering if any of this gets hot, this does not. One thing that's actually kind of nice is that there is some radiant heat that comes off of this that is on the inside here and here, but these are all insulated and none of this gets hot enough to where it, you know, burns. I mean, you know, I've had, you know, the side of my RV hotter on a 105 degree day than what this is. But what's nice is that because this is here and also on the inside of there, this will help insulate some of your water lines that are kind of back there on the other side, and this will actually kind of put some of that radiant heat in here. It doesn't really so much go into the underbelly, so you'd still want to use your propane heater, but at least it kind of does help a little bit provide some of that radiant heat. And my stairs were actually kind of getting a little bit of that as well. It took a couple hours, but you could actually feel the stairs, and the upper floor was slightly warmer. I mean, you know, if you run it long enough, you might even notice a little bit more, but that was just one of the things that I did there that I kind of noticed after using it. Now again, these units are all the same when it comes to buying these, no matter again if you buy the Max Peating Rod ones or, you know, Vever I think is the other one. Some of the options that it comes with it is the only things that are different. But when you take these apart, just to show you guys, because they do require a little bit of maintenance, and sometimes when they're brand new they even have some issues. This is actually the engine that is out of this particular unit here. I took it out and then put it in here because it was actually sealed poorly. And I'll show you. This little spot here can leak, not to mention inside here, but one of the biggest culprits, and I'm sorry I didn't do the greatest job on this particular unit because I was in a little bit in a hurry, but where these come in, and I'll take this apart for you, this is probably one of the things that if you are not mechanically inclined, maybe these are not the best options for you guys. But if you like to tinker a little bit, especially on a very simple engine, these are really simple to work on. So I'm going to pull this out of here. Oh, forgot to take this off. That's why it won't come off. We'll do this, remove the little... So this particular model, and pretty much like all the other ones, they have this intake right here. This is basically your fuel line intake going into here, and there's a rubber grommet that was right here. It was actually split from somebody putting it on, I think, too hard, and they split the rubber grommet. So it was leaking here and also right here. So I ended up using some stuff called, it's called the Right Stuff. It's actually really good. You can use it for a ton of different things. And I sealed this up right here. This is one of the popular areas where they will leak, is where the fuel line goes in. And then also where your glow plug is right here. This is also another maintenance item, hence the reason I didn't want to mount it in my RV, is because if I had to change the glow plug, then it ended up being to where trying to get into that tight spot where your RV is, you know, where you have this mounted, that would be extremely difficult. So I decided just to go with an outside mount, or the outside portable one, and I'm going to try that for a while and I'll see how it works. I'm going to do some updated videos to let you guys know, but these are some of the other things that also happen is fuel leaks. For some reason, when I did buy this particular model, it did have a fuel leak in the very back, and it was very minor, but it was just where they put the fuel line onto the fuel cell itself, into the gas tank. It basically ended up leaking just a little bit, so I cut the fuel line, maybe just about a 1/4 inch back, reinstalled it, and then it was fine. But little things like that you can run into, and if you look at the reviews, those are also some of the things that you're going to find is little stuff like that. Fuel leaks, or you will have engine leaks, so it will smell. a little bit, and if you start to get a little bit of a headache, you probably have a unit that is not sealed properly, much like this one was. And again, these are really simple to rebuild and take apart. There's not much to them, and it's actually kind of fun. But if you're not mechanically inclined, then maybe diesel heaters are probably not the best thing for you guys. But I hope you guys liked the quick video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, and I hope to see you guys next time.